Hello. Our next presenter is Kit Mars. He's the co-founder and chief executive officer of Alaska Silver, which trades on the OTC markets under the symbol WAMFF and on the TSXV under the symbol WAM. Welcome, Kit.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here to see everybody. A few familiar faces from the last few days at the SME event, so that's nice. So today we'll go through some of the aspects of our project in Alaska, but I'd like to say at the start, one of the things I'd like to have you take away is really what the valuation proposal is here for Alaska Silver. We have two resources. We'll touch on those in a minute. Flagship is our Water Pump Creek, extremely high-grade silver polymetallic deposit that we just announced a resource in March of 2024, and that's 75 million ounces of silver equivalent at extremely high grade of 980 grams silver equivalent. We were going public in November of 21. Our going public resource is the past-producing Illinois Creek mine, and that is about 525,000 ounces of gold. That was a past-producing open pit mine. So I'll touch on those in a minute. But when you think about the silver in the ground, historically, pre-production, it's been valued at around $1 an ounce. That's going back a decade or so. I'll have one slide, and I'll show you that the range right now is about 30 cents an ounce to about a high of $1.30. So we're at the low end of that. If we can do some more engineering, advance the project, going from 30 cents an ounce to $1.30, there's a 4x right there on that one deposit. This is the, try it again, forward-looking statement. Please take a look at that sometime in your leisure. So this, why invest in Alaska Silver? So this is a little bit of a due diligence slide. I'll turn in so I can see that a little bit better. Number one, it's high grade. A lot of people ask, well, what really is high grade? So I'll be handing this around, but this is a sample of our drill core from Water Pump Creek. This particular sample is about just under a kilo per ton silver, and that's in the silver grade, 914 grams, and about 55% combined lead zinc. So this is what high grade really looks like. So I'll hand it over to Ellis in the front row. So that'll be going around. Second thing is, so there's a number of things in exploration, pre-production is, pre-development is where we are, that you can do for the project, some things you can't do. They have to exist when you start. One is the grade. Mother Nature makes the grade. You can't change that. You do your drilling, your sampling. We're blessed with one of the highest grade silver polymetallic deposits, or the highest grade among our peers in the Western Hemisphere. Safe jurisdiction. A lot of political unrest going around many places in the world, especially in Africa. Eric has got production problems with the largest gold mine in Africa, such as the junta took it over and seized all their gold. So there is risk in jurisdiction. Alaska is a very good mining-friendly state, has been since the discovery of the Kennecott mine in 1910, gold production in Fairbanks and Nome. We get 5-year exploration permits at a time from the state. We are in the state of Alaska land. We are not on federal land. My wife Joan, who's up in the front row, we're co-founders. We incorporated the company in 2010. We've been operating since then privately for about 11 years and publicly for another 4. We've never had the pleasure of talking to anybody from the BLM or the Forest Service in that time. We deal with the state of Alaska, and that's that. The state owns the surface and the subsurface and all the access. We have an excellent team with a lot of experience in Alaska. Myself, about 35 years exploration in Alaska. Joe Pekenbrock, our chief exploration officer, spent a decade with Nova Gold, later with Nova Copper. If anybody's familiar with the Donlin project, that's about 120 miles south of us. 39 million ounces of gold will be the next mine, I think, in Alaska. Joe took that from 1 million ounces to the current 39 million. Peter McGaw's a good friend of ours, been on our team for 4 or 5 years. Between our group, we have well over 100 years experience of exploring in Alaska. And having Peter, which is the foremost expert in the world on carbonate replacement deposits. We'll go into the geology, but that's the kind of deposit we have. Social license is very important. We are not on native Alaska land, but we have a very strong good neighbor policy that we've worked with every year. Joan and I visit with all the villages in the area and meet with the tribal leaders. And we've had a strong local hire since 2017. Very successful. It's something we're very proud of and something we very much enjoy. And the last is I'll touch on our capital structure in a minute here. Yeah, I pressed that a little too hard. Is that the issue? Oh, okay, very good. So this has our 2 main assets. The top one is the high grade that's going around right now. That's Water Pump Creek. I mentioned the grade there, the 75 million ounces at 980 grams per ton. And right below that is Illinois Creek. Again, the key takeaway for the Illinois Creek mine is we have a fully permitted, past producing, first heap leach open pit gold mine in Alaska on the project. So that shows you can build a mine here, you can permit a mine here. I do want to mention this resource was done in 2019 at gold prices of $1,600 an ounce and $20 an ounce silver. Later on this year, we will be reevaluating that, come with more modern metal prices, and that would be a nice project to go along with Water Pump Creek. The margin on a high-grade deposit like Water Pump Creek is about 5 times the amount of a normal open pit gold or copper mine. It's just a very high margin type of deposit, and high margin means high profit. So this slide shows friends of ours from Magenta's Capital, one of our advisors in Vancouver, Michael Gray in particular, did a filter of trying to look at all the different silver companies that are pre-production. So these are public companies, North America, and the cutoff here, or the filter has to be 60 million ounces of silver or larger. And more importantly, the grade has to be 200 grams per ton is the cutoff. A lot of companies use 100, 150 grams cutoff. What this does, it eliminates low grade, large deposits that maybe are very susceptible to metal prices. Ours is the far left. That's our 75 million ounces. We would like to grow and hopefully increase that, at least double in the next year or two of drilling. A little circle above that is our grade at the 980 grams. Going to the right, you can probably read some of the names. The second one is Wisla, getting close to going into pre-feasibility. Would like to point out, and this is in our brochure if anybody would like to pick it up next door, they're valued at $1.30 an ounce. So that just shows you where we can have a 4X just by moving forward with our engineering studies. So the takeaway here, there's only 6 companies in the silver space, and we are one of those that has this type of grade and this kind of deposit. So for investors or for the mid-tier mining companies that are looking for M&A, there's your 6 choices. Zinc is our number 2 component after silver. It's about 11% zinc. We have 2 critical minerals in the deposit. One, of course, is zinc, and what is more importantly, though, is the number 1 on the critical mineral list is gallium. Gallium is contained within sphalerite, the zinc mineral. Mentioned Jack was talking about germanium and gallium a little earlier. They're very different. They do come in zinc deposits. Gallium is only found in higher temperature zinc deposits. So we just were doing metallurgy on our deposit about 2 years ago. We ran those composite samples in Canada at the ALS lab in Kamloops. And the sphalerite, when it is concentrated, the gallium goes along with it. And those are in the range of about 120 parts per million gallium. So gallium is not a economic driver of this deposit at all. It's driven by the economics of silver, zinc, and lead. But from a permitting and political standpoint, when you have two critical minerals, including the number one on the list, we have gone into discussions with the U.S. Department of Defense. What we would be looking for is some grant money to do research on gallium extraction. I'll make one comment on that. The only gallium currently produced in North America is by a Canadian company that produces about 100 kilos a year, and the sole source is recycling Apple iWatches. The Chinese control all the technology, control the source, and right now they also cut off the license for export. So why is that so important? Is that gallium is critical in what are called active radar displays. And the active radar display is the key element for the F-35 fighter plane that gives the U.S. air superiority over the Russians and the Chinese. So it doesn't really matter to the Department of Defense what the price is, they just have to have it. Touching on our capital structure, we're very proud of this. Try to keep our share count very low. Two numbers to take a look at. The top line would be issued in free trading shares, a little over 42 million. Second line would be founders shares. Joan and I still retain 18% of the company. We understand dilution since we started with 100%. But the insiders and officers and directors still hold 32%. So that's a very strong position for a junior pre-development company. Would like to touch on so if you multiply that by today's prices, we're in the 45, 46 million range, and that would be Canadian. Very proud of our institutional investors. That would include Commodity Discovery Fund out of the Netherlands. Prescott Capital, based in Denver, is our largest shareholder with about 18%. Sprott refers to a number of the Sprott funds in the U.S. and California. And not shown on here are a couple of our international investors that like to keep their name off of the public information, but we're allowed to talk about it. And that would include the Conway Gold Fund in Switzerland, the oldest Swiss-German gold fund in the business in Europe. Leadership, I'll go through this quickly. I've mentioned Joe Pekenbrock, our Chief Exploration Officer. Peter McGaugh is known as the founder of Mag Silver. Mag Silver was just taken over last week by Pan American for $2.1 billion. Peter knows how to find things, and between him, myself, and Joe, I think we have a great team of mine finders and people that have a track record of successful exploration. Location, touch on it right here. We're in West Central Alaska. Actually, should point out prior to April, our name was Western Alaska Minerals. We decided to change it to Alaska Silver to really, as we started emphasizing the Water Pump Creek project is really our flagship. So it's really just to show what our focus is going forward, and that the silver we think is extremely important to us into the market, and looking for higher prices in the near future. I'd like to point out a few operating mines in Alaska to the north of us. You see there it says Red Dog. That is operated by Teck, the largest mining company in Canada. And Red Dog is the world's largest zinc producer. I think it's around 500,000 tons of zinc per year. To the south of us is Donlin, and as I mentioned, was a joint venture with Nova Gold and Barrick. The Nova Gold partners based here in New York, John Paulson and Kaplan Group and Electrum, announced they're going to write a check of $1.1 billion to buy out Barrick's interest, since they would like to move ahead with the project. And Barrick has some other issues going on, so they decided to sell their 50% interest. Fairbanks, we're about 270 miles west of Fairbanks, very close to the Yukon River. Fairbanks is important. That's Kinross operating Fort Knox mine. That's the flagship Kinross, 350,000 ounces of gold per year. Just south of Fairbanks is the underground mine at Pogo that is operated by Northern Star out of Perth. That is about 200,000 ounces a year of gold from underground, and Northern Star is now the largest gold producer in Australia. Moving ahead, looking at our land position, again, want to repeat that we are on state of Alaska land and our access route to the Yukon River is on state land. So because of our background working on this project, it was originally discovered by Anaconda, mentioned earlier in the Lion presentation last. And by the way, I'm probably one of the few people in this room that know where the Weed Heights neighborhood is in Erington. So we have 73,000 acres. That equates to about 111 square miles. This is all state of Alaska land because Joan and I personally staked the northern half, Joe Pekin brought the southern half. We combine those together. We have no underlying royalties, no other third-party payments other than our annual payment to the state of Alaska. The little red line shown there that extends over to the Yukon River. That is an historic mining access route pioneered by Anaconda in the 80s to bring in heavy equipment and drilling from the Yukon River. After the mine closed, I'll touch on that in a few minutes, the haul trucks and heavy equipment was taken out. We have spent about 3 years and a couple $100,000 to complete pre-feasibility level engineering for an all-weather access road. Water Pump Creek would create a zinc concentrate and a lead concentrate, and that would need to be shipped to the Yukon, and then that would be sent down probably to, say, Tex Smelter in British Columbia. Moving in, this is the resource. I won't spend a lot of time on this. The numbers are a little small to read unless you're sitting on the side of the room. Takeaway here is our resource is the red area. That's the sulfide deposit. There's another 800,000 tons in the mustard colored. That is oxide silver. It's still very important. We just haven't done metallurgy yet on the oxide, so we do not mix the two of those together. That'd be a little bit mixing apples and oranges. The other takeaway of this is just to look at the size of the and the shape of the sulfide resource. It ranges from 8 meters thick to 100 meters thick. So this is not a narrow vein deposit. You're either in the high grade that we were sending around, or you're in unmineralized white dolomite. So it's a knife edge type thing. This would be a mechanized long hole stope method of underground mining, which is very cost efficient. You end up having a very low footprint from an environmental standpoint. This type of underground mining is low capital compared to an open pit. And it's also much easier to permit. Any leftover waste would be deposited back underground. So it's a great combination of high grade and low cost mining. This one's a little hard, so I'll just touch on it real briefly. The purpose of this slide is to show the scale and the size of the Illinois Creek deposit. That's on the left. We're about 8 kilometers east-west by 6 kilometers north-south. The two most famous carbonate replacement deposits in the world are shown on the right. It would be Tintic in Utah. Ivanhoe Electric is currently exploring the Tintic district. In the far right, the Santiolalia, the most famous. The scale on all three of these maps are the same. So the point here is to show that we have a world-class size scale of a system. Santiolalia on the right, 300 years of mining produced 1 billion ounces of silver. These are significant silver deposits. Zooming in a little bit is just to show you the relation of our two resources. The high-grade Water Pump Creek is in the upper right-hand corner. The Illinois Creek gold deposit is on the far left and shows all the drilling there. It's a great deposit, but we're going to focus right now on Water Pump Creek. We feel we could take the Illinois Creek deposit from its current 500,000 ounces to close to 1 million with a couple of years of drilling, and we'd like to do that in the near future. The other points there in the middle, those are just other target areas between the two that show this is really a continuous geology and mineralization. So mentioned our social license. Again, we're very active in the community, visit all three of the local villages every season. And then we bring the tribal elders out to see on site, actually see what we're doing firsthand, and more importantly, to see their friends and neighbors that are working for us, receiving job training, etc. When the Illinois Creek Mine was in production in 1998 to about 2000, it was the largest private employer in the area. Today, it's sad to say, it's a very underserved area. We are the largest private employer. So very high unemployment. Whenever we're in the flying in and out of the villages, the first question is, when are you going to open? Because we would like to have a job. So it's very important from that standpoint. And we have support from our single U.S. congressman in Alaska and both U.S. senators. And we're working closely with them on the future support from that standpoint. So here's catalysts going forward. Just touch on these real briefly. Our goal is to continue expansion of the resource at Water Pump Creek, planning a 6,000 meter program this year. Hope to start drilling in mid to late June. We'll also do some potential infill drilling at the Warm Springs target. We currently are working on interpreting a geophysical survey that the state of Alaska flew last year, funded by the U.S. Geological Survey Critical Minerals Program. And it was centered on our property, extended north-south long distance. And that is evidence of the government support for learning more and more about a project like this. So I would like to point out, in fact, we'll go to the last slide and talk a little bit about what our plans are going forward. So we are listed on the TSX Venture, symbol there is WAM, currently on the OTC pink sheets. We are in the process of registering with the SEC, and our plan is sometime this summer is to come out with a U.S. offering. There'll be free trading U.S. shares, and as soon as we get that started, then we'll be on the OTC QX. And our goal really is to expand our U.S. shareholder ownership and have two parallel offerings, one in Canada, one in the U.S. And I think the awakening in the U.S., understanding the need for mining projects, especially critical minerals, is very important. So a little fun slide here at the end. I mentioned that we bring in some tribal leaders every summer to visit our camp. Last year, one of them from Caltag, or a group from Caltag, was there and said, you know, would Kit, a couple of years ago or 20 years ago, I actually worked out here and worked in the gold room. Would you like to see my photo? He said, well, of course. And this is the gentleman's photo. He's in the hard hat, red one on the right. Mine closed in 1998. Borrowed money from the Rothschilds, about $50 million when gold was $350 an ounce. Seemed like a good deal at the time. Went into production the next year, gold hit $263 per ounce, one of the all-time lows post-Nixon. Today, or at that time, the gold in the picture is about 150,000 ounces, $37 million, didn't quite pay back $50 million loan to the Rothschilds. Today, that gold would be worth $450 million. So timing is everything in many, many businesses and elsewhere. And this is an example that, yes, we can produce and mine gold and hopefully silver in the future at our project. So at that point, I'll stop and thank you very much and take some questions.
You talked about an oxide zone. Is that part of the resource, or that's something totally separate?
It's part of the same deposit, but it's not included in our resource because it's different metallurgy. It would add another 5 or so million ounces. We just need to do modern drilling on it. All the drilling was historical, and so we don't have that rock to do metallurgy. Where the current resource, we drilled it all, and so that's where we're doing the metallurgy. This is very, you see the sample going around, anybody that understands metallurgy a little bit, this is very coarse grained sulfides, very good, very soft for crushing, very easy for flotation, very standard metallurgy process. So it's We ultimately will do work on the oxide. It certainly can be produced, but we don't mix and match right now. Any other questions? Oh, here comes the pricing question.
I have two questions. The first one is, can you see Russia from the mine site?
On a very clear sunny day, yes.
But seriously,
It is rather close across the Bering Strait. It's 45 miles between Russia and the U.S.
insofar as the question, you have to understand your land is Russian.
I've heard he wanted that there was some signature problems on the sale back in 1860, 1870. So I don't know. We'll have to talk to an attorney about that. But I would like to say that one of the three villages that we hire from is the town of Galena. And it has a little unique for out in this part of the remote part of Alaska, has a runway that's about 10,000 feet long and a couple hangars that used to have a whole squadron of F-16s. That may get reopened, we'll see.
No, but seriously though, what are your plans? Are you planning to bring this into production yourselves, or are you really looking for somebody to come along and take it off your hands?
It's a great question. So fundamental answer is that we in our team, we are exploration geologists. We know how to find things. We know how to do the baseline studies, and our job is to de-risk it and get the resource as large as possible. We are not mine developers. We certainly could bring in a joint venture partner with operational skills to do that. That's one option. Another option is to sell to a mid-tier company like a Hecla or a Corp, or somebody that's has silver mines in Mexico that want to bring back some of their revenue to the United States from a political safety standpoint. But our job is to make the project big enough so it is economic and to de-risk it both environmentally and from an engineering standpoint. Any other questions? I didn't. We only mentioned what is public in our financial statements at the end of the year. It was around $2 million US. All our accounting and everything is in US dollars. We've just turned in our audited financial statements to convert everything to US GAAP. And as soon as those are approved by the SEC, then we'll announce those numbers. So there's a big difference between international accounting and US GAAP. I'll tell you that from an exploration. Our assets will go, Canada's about 32 million of all the expenditures to date, and US GAAP won't let you capitalize any exploration. So pretty night and day. Good question.
We have a question from the online audience asking about timelines for drilling.
Sure. Timeline for drilling. Right now, I should mention all of our drills we own, and they're on site. All the equipment, the camp, and everything. Nothing is leased. So we will have a turnkey operation. It will be timing, will be financing related. So right now, I would guess to be mid-June to late June, and then our drilling season will extend through the first part of October. And we do have multiple drills, so we can quickly gear up.
Okay, I think that is time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.